Redwood National Park is a series of state parks and groves located in between Eureka and Crescent City in Northwest California. While an amazing park which encompasses over 45% of the remaining coastal redwoods, this park doesn't get visited as much because it's outside of the normal touristy areas of California. Amy and I made the 5.5-hour drive from San Francisco and spent 36 hours exploring the park. Here's what we did. We're leaving our hotel in Eureka and spending the next 36 hours in Redwood National Park. We got a hotel on the south side of Eureka the night before and then headed out early in the morning to explore the park. It was about a 30-minute drive along the coast to the sign that noted the park entrance. We're now officially entering Redwoods National Park. And then another 10 minutes to the visitor center in the town of Oric. Basically, anytime you're in the park though, keep an eye out for elk, as we saw a bunch as we were driving through in the morning. This is our first stop in the park. It's a visitor center to plan out what we're going to explore today and to get the code to go to Tall Trees Grove. The visitor center is a good first stop in the park, as it's a great way to learn about the area's history and to ask any questions of the rangers, since the park is big and spread out, making it a little bit hard to get to everything. After getting the code from the rangers, we headed out on the 45-minute drive to the Tall Trees Grove trailhead. On the way up, this is the Redwood Creek Overlook. It's a great pull-off with some amazing views. On to the Tall Trees Grove. The road to Tall Trees Grove has a locked gate, and so you have to go to the visitor center, check in with them, fill out a permit, and get the code to go through the gate and get access to the trailhead. Permit is required to come back here. Don't come back here without getting a permit and without getting the numbers to get into the gate. 6.5 miles down a dirt road. We went slow, and the dirt road was easily passable by a 2-wheel drive car when we went, but be sure to check if you go after a storm. We got to the visitor center about 10 minutes after they opened. I thought there would be no one here. There's already like 5 cars, but we're heading out on the 4-mile trail to Tall Trees Grove. Tall Trees Grove is an awesome trail, easily one of my favorites in the entire park. I have a video just on this trail in the description, so these clips are just the highlights. This is the famous point of interest on this hike. It's a tree that you can walk right through. This is a reverse hike, so it's 800 feet of elevation down and then back up when you're coming back to your car. After about 1.5 miles walking downhill, we finally made it to the Tall Trees Grove loop. The 1-mile loop here is incredible, taking you to some truly massive coastal redwoods, some large ferns, and some moss-covered trees on the other side. Apparently this tree just came out of the ground. And like splintered. Crazy. We made it back to the split. Now it's 1.5 miles back to the car. Saying goodbye to the grove. Now we get to hike uphill to the car. Almost out. Be sure to take advantage of these benches when you get them. It's steep on the way up. We made it out of Tall Trees Grove, on to the next part of the park. Thanks for letting me out.
You're welcome.
From there was about a 35-minute drive to our next stop in the park. Stop number 2 in the park, Lady Bird Johnson Grove. Lady Bird Johnson Grove is one of the park's most popular hiking trails because it's a short, gradual trail with lots of beautiful trees and an easy parking area. We're heading out. You can go either direction, but we're gonna go that way. The hike is great for families as well, as there's an interpretive guide that you can buy for $1, which tells you all about the area and has different numbers that represent things in the guide. If you're short on time, this is probably the best thing to do in the park. It's only 1.5 miles and you get to see a lot of big trees, but the grove's not as impressive as the grove that we saw earlier this morning. Amy has been reading the trail guide and she has a fact to share with us.
Redwoods are capable of growing up to 360 feet tall, and they gain most of their height in the first 100 years.
Whoa! Epic redwood fact. Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
This is a great area right in the middle of the trail. There's some benches, some information plaques, and some massive trees. A lot of the information here talks about how the redwoods were saved over the last century, and I for one am glad for the work that people have done, as this is an amazing place to explore. Got another fact for us?
It's very hard to kill a redwood tree. They're very resilient.
It is pretty cool to be able to be so close to these big trees on this trail. So we are finishing our time in Lady Bird Johnson Grove. Amy has one more fact for us.
This grove is over 300 acres and was dedicated to Lady Bird Johnson in 1969.
Well done. On to the next spot. From there, we got back on the 101 and headed up to Newton B. Drury Scenic Parkway, which is in Prairie Creek Redwood State Park. This 10-mile scenic drive parallels Highway 101 and goes right through the park, providing great access to the hikes and groves. Look at how this highway that we are driving right now used to look. Pretty cool. I don't think I would want to drive that though. What about you?
Looks a little bumpy.
While you're on the scenic highway, be sure to stop and take in some of the groves and short trails that they have. We're doing the 10th of a mile trail to Big Tree. This 10th of a mile trail is one that you must do if you're driving through this area. It's short, but it has amazing massive redwoods on both sides of the trail. Plus, at the end you'll get to Big Tree, which is 74 feet in circumference and 268 feet tall. It's definitely something that you have to see while you're in Redwood National Park. We made it to the Big Tree. Of course, there are a lot more groves and trails to see in this section, but this is all we got to check out while we were in this part of the park. We're leaving the Scenic Byway. There are a ton of great hikes there if you have the time, but even if you don't, get off the freeway and take this drive. It's beautiful and you'll definitely enjoy it. On to the next spot for us. We were heading on to our next spot, but we saw this sign, and Amy is a huge fan of smoked salmon jerky.
Can't wait to try it.
So we're gonna give it a try.
That's what candy. This is smoked salmon here.
Dang, look at that salmon.
That looks pretty awesome.
Right.
Really good. Smoked salmon candy. Delicious.
After grabbing salmon, it was about a 10-minute drive to a coastal viewpoint.
This is our second to last stop of the day, the Klamath River Overlook.
The Klamath River Overlook is a great quick stop, and there are amazing coastal views in both directions here. There are also hiking trails down to the beach, but we didn't go on any of them on this trip. We just took it all in from above. On the way to the next stop, don't forget to pull out and take a picture with Paul Bunyan and his blue ox babe. This is Trees of Mystery. It's a fun spot to stop with the whole family, but we're heading to our last grove before ending the day. From the Klamath River Overlook, it's about a 50-minute drive to Stout Grove. I had never been here before though, so this was high on my list to check out. After driving the one-lane road to get to the trailhead, we arrived at the grove right when the sun was starting to set. We've made it to the north part of the park and we're at our last stop of the day, Stout Grove. Stout Grove is only a half-mile round trip, but it's one of the most photogenic groves in all of California. We've reached the half-mile loop trail that'll take us through this grove. I think this must be one of the biggest trees in the area. There's no plaque or anything, but it's a big tree. This grove is located in Jedediah Smith Redwood State Park, and it has trees that reach up to 300 feet tall. I have to say the Tall Trees Trail was probably my favorite thing we've done today, but this is definitely the best grove.
I agree.
Amy agrees. That was a long day one. We're gonna get dinner, head back to the hotel, and we will see you tomorrow. Day 2, we're leaving our hotel in Klamath and we're gonna spend a few more hours in the park. After leaving the hotel, we drove 20 minutes south and then turned off on the mostly dirt road that would take us another 20 minutes to Fern Canyon. You do have to pay an $8 entrance fee to get to this part of the park, but it's well worth it for how amazing this area is. Watch out for elk. They'll impale you. From here, we drove along the beach and through the water crossing you have to do to get to the trailhead, and I definitely wouldn't recommend it in a two-wheel drive car, but you can watch another video that I have in the description that talks all about Fern Canyon as well. We're heading out on the trail. It's about 1.5 miles through Fern Canyon. I haven't been here in like 5 years, so I'm really excited to check it out. Fern Canyon is where they filmed one scene from Jurassic Park: The Lost World, and the entire area looks like something you would see in the movie Jurassic Park.
Ooh, it's chilly.
When the water level's low, the best way to experience the canyon is just to walk through it all the way back. It's about 1/2 mile to get through the main section of Fern Canyon. What do you think of Fern Canyon? Is it still as good as you thought it was?
Yeah, it's even better than I remembered it.
Nice. Fern Canyon is a truly awe-inspiring part of Redwoods National Park. We're leaving the main enclosed section of Fern Canyon. Such an incredible trail. We're gonna connect with the trail that goes around the outside and walk back to the car. Of course, you could just turn around and walk back through the canyon. That's what I did last time I was here, but I wanted to see this section of the trail, so we decided to head up. The upper part of the trail doesn't give you any views down into Fern Canyon, but it's beautiful as well, with moss-covered branches and even an elevated boardwalk at the end. Right at the end of the trail, there's a cool overlook back towards where you started. We're heading to our last spot in Redwood National Park. The same Fern Canyon parking area also has a trail down to Gold Bluffs Beach. If you have the time, come down to Gold Beach. You can walk to it from the parking area, or you can actually camp out here and spend more of the day if you want to. This beach is an impressive place to explore as it has beautiful views and there's almost never anyone on it. But this isn't our last stop in the park, so on to our last stop. On the way back to 101, we stopped off at Elk Grove and we're doing our last hike of the trip, Trillium Falls. Trillium Falls Trail, that way. This trail is actually 2.5 miles round trip, but we're just gonna go up to Trillium Falls and back, and that's about a mile round trip. As you can see, we did a lot while we were in the park, so we cut this trail short, but it ended up being one of the most beautiful, and I can't wait to come back and hike the whole thing. It's mind-blowing how amazing the trails in this park are. We've been on some great ones already, but check this out. We're right next to Redwoods. This is a good trail as well. The 1/2 mile to Trillium Falls took us past some big trees and some nice shaded groves. Trillium Falls. It's not a super tall waterfall, but it's pretty cool with all the fall leaves, plus this trail's already been pretty amazing. Thanks so much for exploring with us. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing Redwoods National Park. Get up here and see it for yourself. It's an amazing park to explore.
You can read more at CaliforniaThroughMyLens.com, and we'll see you guys on the next video.